Welcome to a list of mountains so untouched, so obscure, or so forbidden, that no one has ever stood at their summit, despite them not being extremely tall. Every peak on this list is a named, recognized summit, cataloged, measured, and confirmed, yet for one reason or another, still completely untouched by human feet. Mountains here remain unclimbed for very specific reasons, and as the list goes on, those reasons become more and more surprising. Mountain number 2 is a volcanic needle in Western Canada, so sharp and unstable that it was never climbed. Number 4 rises near the most famous mountain on Earth, cursed by a failed expedition that never returned. For over 40 years, no one has dared try again. Number 7 sits inside one of the largest Soviet nuclear test sites ever created. Climbers there aren't banned. They're just never allowed in. And the final mountain on this list is the highest and most remote in Southeast Asia, but no one can agree if it's ever actually been climbed. But let's start with mountain number 1. On a remote tropical island, a black spire of rock rises straight out of the jungle. It's steep, unstable, and sacred. And despite being one of the most photographed peaks in the Pacific, no one has ever stood at the top. This is Mount Otemanu, standing 727 meters tall, or 2,385 feet. It is the highest point on the island of Bora Bora in French Polynesia. It might be surprising that this mountain has never been officially climbed. Otemanu is one of the most photographed peaks in the South Pacific, and the island itself is a major tourist destination. But despite being so visible and accessible, its sharp summit remains untouched. There are a few reasons for that. First, the upper flanks are made of ancient volcanic rock that's brittle and crumbling. Guides on the island say that even experienced climbers would need specialized gear to attempt a route, and the rock conditions make that almost impossible. Local operators describe the summit ridge as unstable and dangerous. There are no trails, no fixed routes, and no recorded summit attempts that reach the true tip. Culturally, the mountain is considered sacred. The surrounding area is dotted with ancient Polynesian marae, temple platforms that once served as ceremonial centers. Some oral traditions describe the mountain as the resting place of the gods, and while it's not formally restricted, there's strong cultural hesitation to climb it. Of course, it's always possible that someone, a local or an unknown visitor from decades or even centuries ago, may have reached the summit without ever documenting it. But in modern times, there is no official record, no GPS confirmation, and no known individual who has stood at the top. For a time, helicopter tours would hover near the summit, but even those were eventually limited due to safety risks. And from the ground, it's easy to see why. The peak tapers into a near-vertical spire with no clear access point. Local accounts consistently say the same thing. It's beautiful to look at, but impossible to reach. So despite its modest height, Mount Otemanu remains one of the most iconic and untouched peaks in the world. Next is a mountain that doesn't rise high, but rises sharp. Hidden in the backcountry of British Columbia, its shape looks climbable from afar, until you get close enough to see the reality: rotten rock, collapsing holds, and no safe route to the top. This is mountain number 2. This is the Vulcan's Thumb, a jagged volcanic spire in British Columbia, Canada, rising to approximately 2,290 meters, or 7,513 feet high. It sits on the summit ridge of Pyroclastic Peak, an eroded stratovolcano that belongs to the Mount Cayley volcanic field. The surrounding region is geologically young and still thermally active, full of lava domes, craters, and unstable terrain. Pyroclastic Peak itself was climbed only once in 1971 by Canadian mountaineers using a steep and technical route along the East Ridge. That climb was difficult, but successful. Just a few hundred meters away, the Vulcan's Thumb stood in plain view, an enticing objective, rising like a black tooth at the edge of the summit ridge. But even then, the climbers avoided it, and no one has reached the top since. The reason isn't remoteness or weather, it's the rock itself. The Thumb is made of rhyolitic tuff, a soft, porous volcanic material left behind by explosive eruptions. That might sound climbable, but it isn't. The rock crumbles under pressure. It shears off in large plates. Even experienced climbers say it's almost impossible to place safe protection. And it's not just one bad route, the entire structure is unstable. Attempts have been made to scope out lines from the nearby glaciers and ridgelines, but every approach comes with the same problem. You might get partway up, but you're gambling with gravity the whole time. No official climbing route exists, no bolts, no summit log, no GPS tracks. What makes it even stranger is that this isn't some hidden peak. It's visible from Whistler and the Sea to Sky Corridor, a major outdoor region full of world-class climbers. The spire is photogenic, mapped, and known, yet its summit has stayed untouched simply because everyone who gets close enough walks away. In a province filled with mountains, the Vulcan's thumb is one of the few that's been deliberately left alone, and for now, it will likely stay that way. From a peak no one dares to climb, we move to one that almost no one has even seen in person. It lies deep in the Amazon rainforest, surrounded by dense jungle and weeks from any road. There are no trails, no satellite camps, and no confirmed record of anyone ever reaching its summit. This is mountain number 3. This is Mont Bellevue de Linini, the highest point in French Guiana, rising 851 meters, or 2,792 feet above sea level. It sits deep in the Guyana Shield, a vast stretch of ancient rainforest along South America's northeastern edge. Despite being officially mapped, Mont Bellevue is almost completely unknown, even within France's overseas territories. And while it's not technically difficult, no climber, scientist, or government expedition has ever confirmed standing at the summit. Getting there is nearly impossible. The mountain lies inside Guyana Amazonian Park, one of the largest protected areas in the Amazon basin. Reaching its base requires weeks of river travel and overland bushwhacking through dense, humid jungle. There are no roads, no established trails, and no nearby settlements. The area is so remote that even satellite imagery struggles to penetrate the canopy for reliable data. Peak records list Bellevue de Linini as very rarely visited, and most mountaineering databases show 0 ascents. There's one unconfirmed GPS log from a private hiker, but no summit photo, no report, and no official acknowledgement. It's entirely possible that no one has stood on the true summit. Mont Bellevue isn't forbidden, it isn't sacred, it's just unreachable. And in the 21st century, that alone makes it something rare. A named national high point, officially recognized, measured, and mapped, that no one has ever officially climbed. Next is a mountain that doesn't hide in the jungle or require weeks of travel. It rises in clear view of Everest, passed by thousands of trekkers every year, but no one has ever climbed it, not because of danger, but because the locals believe no one should. This is mountain number 4. This is Mount Kumbila, rising 5,761 meters, or 18,901 feet above sea level in Nepal's Khumbu region, just a few valleys over from Everest. Unlike many unclimbed peaks, Kumbila isn't remote. It towers directly above the Sherpa villages of Kumjung and Kunde, and sits along one of the most heavily traveled trekking routes in the Himalayas. Thousands pass beneath it every year, but no one has ever stood at the top. The reason is spiritual. Kumbila is considered the home of Khumbu Yulha, the protector deity of the region. According to Sherpa Buddhist tradition, the mountain was tamed by the 8th century master Padmasambhava and turned into a divine guardian. Locals believe the summit is sacred and must never be disturbed. Unlike Everest, which is seen as a place that can be climbed with proper respect, Kumbila is off limits in every sense. But the legend isn't the only reason people stay away. In the early 1980s, a team reportedly attempted to climb the mountain. Not long after beginning their approach, they were caught in an avalanche. Every member of the expedition was killed. The tragedy shocked the local villages, and many took it as a sign that the mountain itself had rejected the attempt. Since then, no one has tried again. To this day, even discussing a summit attempt is frowned upon in the region. While trekkers are free to admire the mountain from a distance, Sherpas avoid its upper slopes entirely. Annual festivals and rituals are held in its honor, reinforcing the idea that Kumbila is not a mountain to be conquered, but a presence to be respected. There are higher peaks nearby, and more difficult ones too, but none command this level of fear, reverence, and restraint. Mount Kumbila remains one of the only major Himalayan summits that no one even plans to climb. Next is a mountain few people have ever heard of, not because it's forbidden, but because it sits alone in the sub-Antarctic Crozet Islands, surrounded by freezing seas and brutal weather. There are no settlements, no trails, and no confirmed ascent in recorded history. This is mountain number 5. This is Mont Marion-Dufresne, the highest point of Ile de l'Est in the Crozet Islands, part of the French southern and Antarctic lands. It rises 1,050 meters, or 3,445 feet, above the icy Southern Ocean. The Crozet Archipelago sits far south of the Indian Ocean, in one of the most isolated regions on Earth. Mont Marion-Dufresne is surrounded by jagged cliffs, constant storms, and waters so rough that even landing a boat is considered hazardous. The island is uninhabited and only rarely visited by scientists or conservation teams. There is no record of any summit attempt, and no documented ascent in the more than 250 years since the island was discovered. The terrain is volcanic, steep, and slick with moss and fog, but it's not the mountain's technical difficulty that keeps people away. It's the logistics. The island can only be reached by occasional French research vessels, and even then, permission to disembark is rarely granted. The weather is notoriously brutal, with gale-force winds and near-constant cloud cover. Mont Marion-Dufresne isn't the kind of mountain climbers dream about. It's not famous, it's not photogenic, and it doesn't come with any climbing prestige. But that's what makes it strange. It's a national high point of a French territory, with a measurable summit, yet it's been so thoroughly ignored that few people even realize it exists. Now we head back to the Amazon, to a mountain that doesn't just look mysterious, it's legally off-limits. Surrounded by untouched rainforest and uncontacted tribes, its perfect pyramid shape has never been explored up close. This is mountain number 6. This is Cerro El Cono, a near-perfect pyramid rising 850 meters, or 2,789 feet, above the rainforest in eastern Peru. Its name translates to the cone, and from above it's one of the most geometrically striking peaks in the entire Amazon basin. It looks artificial, symmetrical on all sides, isolated in shape and setting. But despite how defined and visible it is on satellite imagery, no one has ever climbed it. Not officially, not legally. Cerro El Cono lies within the Sierra del Divisor, one of the most remote and biologically rich regions of the western Amazon. The area is so difficult to access that even reaching its base can take 2 weeks by river and on foot. And that's assuming you have government permission, which most people don't. The Peruvian government has classified much of the surrounding region as protected land, specifically because it borders the territory of uncontacted indigenous tribes. Any expedition, scientific or otherwise, risks violating laws that exist to protect these communities from outside contact. That protection has made El Cono off-limits to climbers, researchers, and even the military. Its summit, visible, measurable, and recognized, is legally untouchable. And culturally, it's considered sacred ground. Some local groups regard the peak as an apu, or mountain spirit, believed to possess power or presence beyond the physical. Scientifically, the mountain has attracted attention for years. Aerial surveys have debated whether it's a heavily eroded volcanic plug, a sedimentary anomaly, or something else entirely. But without the ability to investigate on foot, its structure remains mostly a mystery. Even modern LiDAR data offers only limited insights beneath the jungle canopy. In an age where most peaks have been climbed, mapped, and conquered, Cerro El Cono remains intact, not because of difficulty, not because of fear, but because no one is allowed to set foot on it. Next is a mountain that isn't protected by law or legend. It's protected by politics. Located in a former Soviet nuclear testing zone, it's been hidden, restricted, and left off maps for decades. No one's ever climbed it, and almost no one's even allowed to try. This is mountain number 7. This is Mount Kruzenshtern, the highest point on the northern island of Novaya Zemlya, a remote Arctic territory of Russia. It rises 1,547 meters, or 5,075 feet, above sea level. The mountain stands in one of the most secretive and restricted regions on Earth. From 1955 to 1990, Novaya Zemlya served as the Soviet Union's primary nuclear weapons testing ground. Over 130 nuclear detonations took place here, including the infamous Tsar Bomba, the largest nuclear device ever detonated. Mount Kruzenshtern sits inside the northern testing zone, surrounded by military installations, exclusion areas, and decades of Cold War secrecy. Soviet-era maps often left the region blank or distorted. Even today, access to the island requires special military permission, which is rarely, if ever, granted to civilians. The mountain has no recorded summit attempts, no climbing logs, no GPS data, no expedition reports. Modern climbing databases list it as unclimbed, and satellite images confirm that there's no infrastructure anywhere near the peak. It isn't protected by nature or culture. It's protected by decades of geopolitical isolation. The terrain itself is harsh, with shifting glaciers, fierce Arctic winds, and temperatures that can plunge below -40 degrees. Radiation risks are low today, but the legacy of past detonations still looms. Now we head to the edge of Antarctica, to a mountain that dwarfs everything around it. It's a massive shield volcano, surrounded by ice and silence. Scientists have studied it from afar for decades, but no one has ever reached the summit or even tried. This is mountain number 8. This is Mount Siple, a massive shield volcano rising 3,110 meters, or 10,203 feet, on the coast of Marie Byrd Land in West Antarctica. It's one of the tallest mountains in the region, but unlike other Antarctic giants, it's never been climbed. There are no summit photos, no GPS records, and no documented attempts. In fact, it's believed that no human has ever set foot on the mountain itself, not even its lower slopes. Mount Siple is located on Siple Island, a large ice-covered landmass cut off from the Antarctic mainland by treacherous sea ice. There are no permanent research stations nearby, and the island is so isolated that only a handful of scientific overflights have captured it on film. The only known visitors were early U.S. Navy expeditions, which surveyed the region from offshore but never landed. The volcano itself is enormous, broader than Mount Fuji, and completely covered in snow and glacial ice. Its slopes are gentle in places, but the challenge isn't technical difficulty, it's logistics. Reaching Siple Island requires ideal sea conditions, a break in the pack ice, and support from a national Antarctic program. Even then, landing is uncertain. No expedition has ever prioritized climbing it, and no country has allocated the budget or infrastructure to try. Now we head to Southeast Asia, to the highest mountain in Myanmar. It's one of the most remote peaks on the continent, and for decades, climbers have debated whether anyone has truly reached its summit. Even the most famous attempt is still questioned to this day. This is mountain number 9. This is Hkakabo Razi, the highest mountain in Myanmar, standing 5,881 meters, or 19,295 feet. It's located in the far north of the country, in one of the most inaccessible corners of Southeast Asia, surrounded by dense jungle, uncharted ridges, and an unforgiving climate. It's been called the last great Himalayan mystery, and for good reason. No one can say for certain if the summit has ever truly been reached. In 1996, Japanese climber Takashi Ozaki and his partner Naima Gyaltsen claimed the first ascent. They reported reaching the top after a difficult route up the north face, but they carried no GPS, took no summit panorama, and left no conclusive evidence. The only confirmation came from their own written account, which largely repeated a decades-old estimate of the mountain's elevation based on British maps from the 1920s. What's even more interesting, modern GPS data has cast doubt on whether Hkakabo is even the tallest mountain in Myanmar. A 2013 expedition climbed nearby Gemlang Razi, measured it precisely with satellite instruments, and found it may actually be taller. Their conclusion? Hkakabo has never been properly measured, and likely never truly summited. Then, in 2014, a high-profile National Geographic team attempted to solve the mystery. Led by climbers Mark Jenkins and Renan Ozturk, they fought through jungle, altitude, and brutal weather to reach the summit ridge, but stopped short of the peak. Jenkins described the final stretch as a knife edge of granite towers, too dangerous to cross. They turned back within a few hundred meters of the top. Even today, no verified GPS data or summit photo exists. Some climbers believe Ozaki may have stopped at a false summit, a snow dome that looks like the top from below, but isn't the true apex. Without conclusive proof, the question remains open. In the world of mountaineering, few things are more debated than a summit claim without evidence, and in the case of Hkakabo Razi, the evidence just isn't there. It may be the highest mountain in Southeast Asia, and still, no one knows if it's ever been climbed. After hearing the stories behind these mountains, one question remains. Which one do you think will be climbed first? Or will they all remain untouched forever? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, and check out my other stuff. Thanks for watching.